and welcome to the show. I am Evasion. I am joined today by War Spirit as we continue forward this evening. I went ahead and I was going to do this nice little fade out thing with the music, but I couldn't quite find my buttons right. It'd be nice if there was someone, a third person, to get a hold of all that for me. But that's not the case anymore. Anyways, here we are this evening. We have a few things to go over. It's been a busy week in our personal lives with work, among other things. We have also been anticipating the release of a film put together by all of us here at Is Today the Day Media, as well as a few unaffiliated friends. So anyways, how are you doing tonight, War Spirit? How are you?
I'm doing good. Eating me a bowl of chili.
No kidding. How's that chili?
Really good.
It's really good.
It's good. It's whole wife made homemade chili. It's pretty good.
I like that. I'm jealous. I've been on that keto diet as of late. And I've done the keto diet before to much success, and I'm hoping to get that same success this time around.
Right.
As you may notice, everybody who watches the film, I'm a bit pudgy. But as time goes on, I've been enjoying myself. So a few things to talk about this evening, and we'll probably just go about going into them one by one. Where to start is a bit difficult. Tomorrow is Halloween, a much-awaited holiday for many of us, and I think that's where we should start. Did you get a little notification on your phone, War Spirit? A little notification from our illustrious governor.
It was from your girlfriend.
Mm-hmm. I don't know, man. I'm kind of thinking about breaking up with her. She's kind of a bitch.
Yeah.
Old Michelle Lujan Grissom, my dear love of Santa Fe, with your wrinkles and odd jewelry. Yeah, so she waited till a day before Halloween to say, everyone, stay inside, don't go outside, massive virus risk. Extreme virus risk. Okay. First off, right? Okay. Because the message reads like this. Extreme virus risk, New Mexico. Stay inside. Only, personal contact in the house, right? Or of the house. War Spirit?
Right.
Right. And, so this goes on, and it's just kind of like, I was just thinking about this, and I was just kind of like, I didn't grind my teeth. I have a tendency when the governor speaks to grind my teeth, knowing how much it's going to hurt people. So I went on vacation, and this is something that I had no idea until a week after being back. But I tried going to Carl's Jr., and they didn't serve me inside anymore.
Right.
And I was like, I talked to my buddy, which is War Spirit. And I talked to you, and I was like, hey, what's this? I thought we could eat now. And they're like, oh, no, she went back on it. She did what? Again? And it's just this back and forth. I feel like she's holding this state, and she's just, playing with us at this point. And I don't enjoy that, and any sane, logical person, left or right, shouldn't enjoy that either.
Well, and I've even heard of reports of people that may lean more towards the left. Another friend of mine was telling me about this, that even people who lean towards the left, they're getting angry about this.
Yeah, well, I had a buddy. I messaged him. It's tradition, we celebrate Halloween together. I go to his place in a ghillie suit and scare the hell out of little children. It is the most fun year of my day of the year ever. I message him, and he's kind of been like a mask hog this whole time. He's like, hey, yeah, you should wear your mask. You should, all this, that, and that. And people who don't are evil and then, whatever. Or stupid or whatever. But now he's sitting here, he's like, I have plans. I asked him, I said, what do you think now? And he's like, I don't like this. This is ridiculous.
That genre reminds me of a quote that the great Ronald Reagan said. A recession is when your neighbor loses his job. A depression is when you lose your job.
Quite right.
it's all good, and it's like, oh, it's not that bad when it's not affecting you.
Right. Too right.
But then when something affects you personally, well, this has got to change.
Mm-hmm. And that's kind of like the general attitude I've seen among the left. And I mean, hold on, where do I have the Discord screen? Do I have to? Yeah, cool. It's already set up for the stream. Cool. So no, I've kind of noticed this trend with them because it's like, wear your mask, do this, do that, and everything's all fine and good, and it's like, oh, here's the best one. Landlords should be taxed more, and then they react when their rent goes up.
Right.
You know, that really cracks me up when that happens. You know, it's like, what did you expect?
Right.
And so, going with all that and dealing with this type of mentality, it is getting old, but, I mean, at least they're getting somewhere, I guess.
It's the same thing with the corporate taxes. Trump gave a lot of these corporations tax cuts, and the left is, they've always like, oh, that's wrong, it's not, you're hurting the people. No.
The rich.
You don't understand.
The rich. Ew, not the rich. Ew.
Yeah.
What they don't understand is these corporations, if they're getting less taxes, that means they can afford to employ more people.
No! Sorry, that might have been a bit dramatic, but that is kind of the point. But yes, no!
Right.
But employment isn't everything. You're just wanting to keep businesses alive because you don't care about people's lives. Excuse me?
No.
I've heard that a lot.
I want Joe Blow, that works hard every day, to be able to go home to his nice warm house with a 72-inch TV and play DayZ.
Yes.
Without that job, he can't afford that 72-inch TV.
Can't afford.
And if he does have a house, he's going to be freezing his butt off.
Well, here's
because he's not going to have any gas.
Here's the thing. This is why the leftists, they push for, against employment. In fact, like, employment isn't their job because they don't see it as important. Because as far as they're concerned, oh, well, why bother? All you need to do is sign up for an unemployment check. Or you need to sign up for welfare. You can't find a job. You need the government. So basically, to quote a wise phrase I've heard many times, is there's two ways to make a slave. Pay him without work, or don't pay him for work he's done, right? Let me say that again clearly.
Right.
So, two ways to make a slave. Don't pay him for work he's done, or pay him for work he hasn't done.
Right.
And either way you make, in this opposite way, you make a thing called dependence. This works in animals as well. This is why many dogs, exotic animals, people get all uppity when you have them as a pet, because if they got out and on their own, they wouldn't know how to fend for themselves. And the same thing happens, right? Is that these animals, just like humans, like how the Democrats are treating people, is that the Democrats want these people to be reliant upon them. And that's what I see when I see these ghettos and bustlings full of people who have just enough to get by, but aren't willing to work to be successful.
Right.
But they're happy with that. They're happy with living off the government paycheck, the government dole, right?
Well, that's the reason why the unemployment checks that people get if they're not working and stuff. There's a reason why it was designed to give you just enough to where, and I've seen a lot of people do this, to where you make just barely more than, like, say, if you had a part-time job.
Right.
But not enough to get really good. So, and also, they need to change this. So, say I'm on unemployment.
Right.
But I still want to be able to find a job. And a manager at McDonald's calls me and says, hey, we looked at your resume. We'd love to have you. Then I find out if I'm making minimum wage, I no longer get my unemployment check. And I'm like, oh, well, you see, I make less working at McDonald's than if I sat on my butt and did nothing.
Right.
So I'm going to sit on my butt and do nothing.
Mm-hmm. And you can see the manipulative tactic, because people do have their own interests in mind. I'm not getting onto people for watching out for themselves. It's just this is the way the government wants it to kind of go by until it's normal.
Well, what they should do, in my opinion, is say again, I same scenario, and I find out, I can get this part-time job. What they should do is keep subsidizing those people as long as they're trying to better themselves, not to work a full-time, part-time job and get off the money of the government. But as long as, in my opinion, if I know that guy that's working a part-time job is trying to get a better job later, they should continue paying him some of that unemployment.
Right.
That way, he's still bettering himself. He's still making more than he was, but he's working.
I just thought of this new idea. And so, like, the incentive here is, like, to get people away from this trap that the government has set. Because I've been on the unemployment before. I was on it for about not even half a year. I was on it for about 3 months. Hated every minute of it. Not because, like, I feel so bad. It's my money and unemployment, but... Right, so let me get that right. So I was doing that for 3 months because my job told me, go ahead. I never considered unemployment. I would just find a new job when the old one ran out, right? But
yeah,
I don't know. But like, here's an idea for like incentivizing people, because it's like, I'll make just as much money sitting on my butt doing nothing. Might as well, and I'm the same way. It's like, well, if I get paid $500 a week to do nothing, which was about how much I made a week under unemployment, then I'm just going to do that until it dries up.
Right.
And unemployment is different, right? So unemployment, whatever, keep unemployment like that, because some people are genuinely like unlucky and they kind of pay into unemployment on their own anyways. I just kind of want the government to not be involved with unemployment. I want that to be like a private business thing, like, hey, you quit, like either they quit or they let go, just whatever. It's just like this final check to like good luck that, that you can either choose to pay as you work there in case something happens or whatever. Just, I don't see why the government needs to be involved. But other than the government says, all right, if they've paid into it, then you have to give it to them, right?
I'm torn on this because I know how shitty companies can be.
Exactly. And that's what I was saying, like, government-wise, I would like for them to, like, if you choose, like, sign this paper that says, I would like X amount of dollars to be taken out for an unemployment thing, and, like, the company can lay down these rules of, like, if you don't follow these standards, then, because otherwise you're just working towards an early retirement.
Right.
But, at the same time, like, I guess, if you're willing to pay that much into your own back pocket, and the company's willing to pay you that much in their normal paycheck anyways, and just withhold it from your money, then
it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter. So it's like, it's one of those things, it's like, the only thing the government should be involved in there is to make sure that the company at name here, whatever it may be, gives it to you after the fact and doesn't withhold it.
Well, see, that's what I mean by being shitty. Like,
right.
I've heard horror stories of people that, a company will find a way to, even though they were, had to let them go or whatever, they make an excuse. Oh, well, he did this, so now we don't have to pay him unemployment.
Right. And I mean, that happened also similar with old people who are getting ready to retire, or young people even. Walmart, and don't get me wrong, Walmart's fine. This kind of more depends on like the management of the Walmart's whatever. But I remember when I was working for Walmart in East Maine, there was this old cart pusher. He's in his 70s, and he was getting ready to retire. He had 1 week left, and like halfway through that week, he got fired because he had to go to like this hospital deal, and he didn't bother calling in. He had a stroke, and the computer auto fired him. And he went in and talked to the managers. The managers were like, "Oh, there's nothing we could do. That's corporate." And so him being fired under this stance restricted him from being able to retire under Walmart and that sort of thing. So it was like, It was really bad. In fact, that was what actually caused me to quit. Because I was like, I don't want to be that guy.
Yeah.
You know, and among other things. But another idea, and I don't know if this has been done, but something that would incentivize people, let's make this system as bare minimum as possible. And let me explain. So you know how you have food stamps? You can't buy cigarettes, you can't buy video games, you can't buy media, you can't buy anything of luxury with food stamps. You can only buy food. And I like that. Alright, you can only buy food.
Mm-hmm.
So, but in a lot of ways, people are like, oh, but I can't pay my rent, I can't pay this, I can't pay that. What if, and this wouldn't really be able to apply under like maybe landlords until we work some kinks out of it for like rent payers. But, I mean, at that same token, I don't know. But here, listen to this. Like, people who own a home, utility points is what I was thinking. Some kind of, like, they can only pay for, like, gas or, like, whatever, like, to keep their house warm, lights, electricity, that sort of thing. But, like, cable and all that, because it's not money, they can't pay for the luxuries of that.
What you could call this...
Right.
Is necessity of living or necessity of life costs.
Right, and I was looking at this because, like, a lot of these people, the reason they're so, you know, they're not incentivized to go work is because, well, I can buy anything with my welfare check. What's it matter? And so, like, at this point, it's like, we're not, you know, the government's still having, you know, to do this thing, but now there's an incentive because they have anything fun. And granted, this wouldn't work for everyone. Some people would still be content with the bare minimum, like, oh, I can turn the heater on and the lights. That's nice.
Well, here's the issue with it.
Right.
Here's what happens even with food stamps, because with food stamps, you know, you're not supposed to be able to buy this stuff. So what you do is you put out on, you know, more of an esoteric, more of a like a secure, like. It used to go on a lot on Craigslist, but you put out, it's like, hey, kind of in a code that everybody understands. I got money for groceries. If somebody will give me cash, I'll give it to you 50 cents on the dollar.
Right, and I remember that. That was actually very common back in the day. There would be people standing outside of markets selling food stamps.
Mm-hmm.
I remember that. I always thought it was like a bit odd. I was like, well, this is more valuable. Who would ever be silly enough? I get kind of the jurisdiction now of like what was going on. But like when I was a kid, and kids, you'll know, are very honest, and they're very, in some ways, just, they get the point across in ways that adults can't. Because adults have this, we bounce around in our philosophically matured minds, whereas kids are just like, I don't know, black is black, white is white. And that's just one of those things that I was thinking, like, for a long time. I was like, well, you know, that's what I think welfare should be, is like food stamps and like necessity of life. But like instead, you know, you got these welfare dudes, and yeah, welfare dudes are living better than me. They do whatever they want in a day. They make the same amount of pay that I do. And by golly, if I was, you know, if my anxiety would allow it, I would probably freaking pretend to need freaking welfare. Just for the simple reason, it's like, oh, well, why am I breaking my back and working my knees when I could just sit at home and talk to girls online? You know, who knows? Rolling in the dough over here. It's just one of those odd things in life and the American way of doing things that has just sank our nation into a pit of socialist nightmareism. And I was explaining that to a friend because I drove through the reservation again. And I looked around, and he's like, I don't know why there's so much trash, why it's all torn, and why it's all destroyed. I don't get it. And he's like, all these people are useless. They're not doing anything. And he's like, we need to just, like, you know, he was a bit more violent with it. He's not, like, prejudiced towards that, but he was just saying, like, leeches of society. And I understand it, because it's his money, and he has a hard time keeping money when, you know, like, so many others, it's all going to socialist values for people who don't care, who aren't grateful, and it's getting old.
The thing is, though, is the government has created these people.
Mm-hmm. And that's what I was trying to explain. It's not so much a people issue. It's again, pay someone not, pay someone without work, and you have yourself this.
Again, the whole, it goes back to the whole thing where you said, some people would still be content.
Right.
So the natives that live on the res are content at getting the bare minimum. The ones that want more than the bare minimum don't live on the res.
You ain't lying. And I'm not even going to apologize for that. I'm not even going to say, I know that's... No, it's not prejudice at all. It is fact.
No, it's just a fact. It's not because they're native that it's that way.
It's because they realize a system in place for their nation is garbage.
Correct.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of hard-working Native Americans, good friends of mine.
Oh, yeah.
And you want to talk about the people who are more angry at their own people is a native that's a hard-working native.
The same applies to many of the ghettos in the large cities that are, sadly, predominantly black.
Yes.
And, I see that same rhetoric, and I would suggest anyone in that boat to be careful and remember that these people are people. But at that same token, I understand it's like, it'd be kind of like, when you're it's one thing to be disappointed in someone, but it's another thing to be disappointed in family.
Right.
Because like when your family like wrongs you, there's or a church or work or something, it's a lot more personal. Or even on the scale of like race or nationality. When your own people betray you, it's like, dude, really? I haven't personally had that issue with, like, I don't know, people betraying me, but, well, at least race or nationality. Actually, I'll take that back, nationality-wise, very much. The liberal left are nothing but traitors to this nation. I feel only disappointment. And it's on a personal scale.
I've been betrayed. Felt betrayed by race before.
Oh, well, sure.
Back in the early, late 90s to early 2000s, I had a Toyota Celica with a 4-cylinder in it, and man, I got my butt handed to me by a Ford Lightning. That race was it was very emasculating.
Yeah. You need Jesus or Spirit.
I do need Jesus because I was racing down 20th.
Oh my God! What are you doing?
Light the light, bro.
Light the light. Oh my gosh. Oh no.
Back in the day, it was right after Fast and the Furious, and I had a little rice burner.
Dirty street racer, I'm gonna call the governor. You weren't wearing your mask.
And it's just on the whole scale thing, like going back to the original topic, like it blows my mind how Michelle Lujan Grissom was just like, hey guys, you know how like that SHIT I pulled on 4th of July? Let's do it again this Halloween. And here's the thing.
Yeah.
Not everybody, especially not Native Americans, they somehow have been manipulated to believe that 4th of July is about killing natives, kind of like Columbus Day or something, which neither is. However, Halloween is celebrated across the board by Christians, seculars, whatever. It's just that everybody's like, yeah, this is aight. And so now, like, waiting that day before, people on all sides have made plans with families, friends, or even just, like, bought their candies, bought their stuff to, guess what? Enjoy Halloween evening. And I'm really glad that it's on a Saturday. That's going to be a lot of fun. I have plans, like I said, to go spook kiddos. But other than that, like, I'm just also, it's like, again, disappointed, that like people have allowed this sort of rhetoric to be a normal thing with a governor. I don't understand how we've gone so like far from, because like normally I would think people would be, but here's the thing is that people don't want to be self-responsible anymore.
I wonder how many houses are still going to hand out candy.
Oh,
You think
man.
there will be any that defy the governor?
Oh, bro. I'm going to tell you right now, she messed up on this one. But on that same token, it'll also be pretty funny because, like, you're probably going to have a lot of Karens, like, come tomorrow. There's going to be, like, a lot of people who, like, are very violent and angry that
Someone would go trick-or-treating during COVID. What?
Oh, yeah.
you know, and I just...
Listening tomorrow night to the sheriff's dispatch and, like, the Farmington dispatch, if you guys have, like, an app on your phone, listen to that, because it's probably going to be quite hilarious, the Karens, like, calling into dispatch. They saw so-and-so giving away candy.
Right, and dispatch is going to be like, bruh.
Oh, yeah. The deputies are going to be like, really? We got to go to this?
Yeah, and the deputies, mind you, everyone who's really religious about this whole COVID thing, the deputies are going to visit 15 special houses who win, I guess, in some kind of contest, I believe. If I read it correctly, I don't really care. That they'll visit your house and give your kids candy in the house, so you don't have to do all that evil trick-or-treating that the conservatives are doing. Ooh. You know, so, you know, you do you, boo.
But isn't that still bringing somebody that's not in my household into my house?
Oh, but it's an officer. Wait a minute. Defund the police? Wait a minute.
You know, that brings up another topic that I always laugh at with, and you know, don't get me wrong, if there's any officers out there listening, I support the police, I support sheriff's deputies, but I always laugh when it always comes up, the, you know, well, only police officers should have guns. And I like asking people, I'm like, well, why? Why do you think that? And a lot of people are like, well, they have the training. Well, do you think you're incapable of learning?
Right. Well, that's
and they're
a
like,
big question.
Well, what do you mean? I'm like, well, there are lots of great companies out there training. Local ones here. There's also ones across the nation. The one that Grand Thumb talks about all the time, Cogworks, Haley Strategic, all these like really high brand trainers that, yeah, they're expensive, but if you pay the money, you can be taught really well. And firearms training, it's no different than any other martial art. And I like to call firearms training a martial art because it is. And so it's no different than going to a jiu-jitsu class and learning how to roll and how to properly do jiu-jitsu. Same thing.
Right. And that's important. Again, it's like self-responsibility, self-protection. So it's like, why are we content as a nation? And this is a statistical thing, because if this wasn't statistically true, we wouldn't be here. Why, as a nation, have we grown content with obeying others? America's stereotype used to always be, oh, you're so stubborn. You won't change. You won't let people control you. Why don't you do what the Europeans do? Why don't you do what the Saudis do? You know, so on and so forth. China, you know, whatever. They compare us all the time, and we're like, well, it's because we're not that. We're American. F off.
Right.
And, like, right now it's like, oh, well, yeah, we're American, but, you know, these other nations are leading by example, and we're going to do what they do, and our governments, you know, like, whatever they say goes, because I just want to be safe, and I don't want to take responsibility for myself. It's kind of like if, imagine a bird's nest that the mother never bothers to throw the birds out of the nest.
Right.
They just sit there until they're grown, never knowing that they could fly, but they're content with just getting worms puked down their mouth. And that's all fine and good until mama bird dies. Could happen.
Right.
You know, and it's like, what now? And all these little birds, are now adult birds living in their nest, playing World of Warcraft, they just kind of starve and go away. And it's sad. It's not something that should be like, oh, but like, this is like what's happened is that people are like, yes, mommy government, puke your worms down my throat. I love it, and it's just
if those baby birds are playing RTS games, they deserve to die.
Well, World of Warcraft isn't an RTS game; it's an MMORPG, or worse. But I quite love RTS. I don't know why you're talking crap about my Russian tactical shooters, but all right.
Hey, Russian tactical shooters.
Stalker. Hey, I got you. Anyways.
Oh well, actually, I guess a real-time strategy or even a turn-based strategy game is far better than that piece of crap Stalker. So I do agree.
I don't agree. We will agree to disagree. This is between you and me. Don't bring our viewers into this.
Listeners out there,
yeah,
we want to hear from you. Is Stalker a better game than Fallout 4?
No, don't even line it up like that.
Yeah.
Because most people are like, I don't know, I never played Stalker, so I guess Fallout 4. Listen, is Stalker
one of the best first-person shooters of all time, RPG first-person shooter, one of the best ones of all time, better than some Russian game that has grainy graphics at best.
It was made in 2006, dog. Chill.
Has crappy guns that jam 90% of the time.
Well, it's not my fault you don't clean them, dog. Yeah, it's the same thing in freaking Fallout.
AKs. You don't have to clean AK, comrade.
If your AK is falling apart, well, yeah, I guess you're right. But listen, I personally never had that problem because I guess I just know how to play Stalker, which is a valid point. I should know how to play a game to enjoy it, which is kind of like, oh, okay, well, I guess I don't enjoy. Like, imagine if I tried to play chess without knowing what to do. I just, oh, this game sucks. It's not really fair. But I have a meme on the screen, everyone, and if you want to check it out, War Spirits in show notes.
Oh, I haven't either. Oh, okay.
Yeah, and it's about this notification that MLG sent out. So, extreme New Mexico virus risk. Stay safe. No.
Oh, yeah.
Or what?
I remember that episode with Bugs Bunny. It was great.
Right. No, it is fantastic. I do enjoy that one.
You better get out of here, you varmint! Or what?
I quite enjoy old Looney Tunes myself. I mean, the shows on television these days are dreadful, especially for children. It's not the first time mentioning this toxic show. But somebody sent me on Instagram a snippet of a show called Steven's Universe or whatever. And I kid you not, they have, and this is like the most grooming, like child grooming type crap I have ever seen. They have, I kid you not, two boys, they go down a slide and they're holding hands and they're like, we should get married. And one's white and one's black. And they don't bring up the fact that they're both boys, but somebody comes up and is like, you can't get married because you're white and you're black. And then like one of the heroes of the show like comes up and is like, don't be racist. And that's like it. And I was just sitting back. I was like, okay. I was like, I didn't even think about the race card on this one. I was just like, why is this whole like marriage thing like, it was very bad. Like, and it's just like, it's grooming. It's like, yeah, gay is normal. Racism is terrible. And it's like, yeah, racism is bad. But this whole gay thing, it's like, why is this here? This isn't, this isn't entertainment. Like, I'll tell you what my kids' shows growing up was freaking Tom getting a freaking hammer shoved up his butt by Jerry, and screaming. I thought that was hilarious. And now it's just like this message constantly. Global warming is real. Gays are, you're gay. And if you're not gay, then you're a terrible thing. Shame on you. And like all this. If
Jerry stuck a hammer up Tom's butt, wouldn't that be gay?
I'm going to talk about that.
Just asking.
I don't know. I mean, you already kind of ruined one thing. It's like, dude, SpongeBob is gay. And I was like, no, he's not. And you're like, well, think about it. And when I thought about it, I was like, you know what, man? I didn't need to hear that. I like SpongeBob. Out of all the shows, like, I've never seen them as, like...
It's one of the gayest cartoons I have ever seen.
Well, like, when you brought it up, it's like... I was like, his best friend's a guy. I'm like, well, my best friend's a guy, dog. Like, what are you saying? But then it's like... it's like, you know, me and Ever used to hang out all the time, acting all goof-ass and doing stupid stuff. But, like, when you put it into, like, context, I was like, all right. I see what you're getting at. SpongeBob's a little bit rainbowy. But...
Yeah, I bet you and your buddy never... Because, you know... And it's in Bikini Bottom. It's underwater. So they try to catch jellyfish with a net. So the human equivalent is are you and your buddy going to go out and catch butterflies together?
That's a good point. And that's what I was saying in context, like when you put it that way. But that could also be seen like, would you and your buddy go fishing together? It's like, yeah.
That's ain't fishing, bro. That's it. The reason why there's a net. You're catching butterflies.
On this Today the Day Media, we bring hard-hitting news. SpongeBob is gay, Steven's universe is grooming children, and all in all, television sucks ass cheese. Which you already knew that.
even Disney Channel's doing it now. The last Beauty and the Beast, they had to make so.
Oh yeah, the candle and the clock. Yeah,
had to be a queer.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that ruins it too, because like that was my favorite kid. Like as a kid, like if I had to watch Beauty and the Beast with my sisters, because I always figured girly movie. If I had to watch it, I always got a kick out of that little henchman under Gaston. And then it was like he's gay. I'm like, well, you know, all things considered, the way he worships Gaston, yeah, but that didn't need to be implied in such a clear, blunt way.
Maybe it was just hero worship, though.
That's true.
You know, you don't gotta you just because like you have somebody like you consider, especially as a younger guy, as your hero, doesn't make you gay.
That's true.
I mean, shoot, I thought back in the day when I was a kid that John Elway could do no wrong. Didn't make me gay. I was just a huge fan of the quarterback.
Right.
And here it is. They tried to make something very innocent and
it's just gay, and it's just
and they perverted it.
And and I get it. It's like, oh, they gotta include it. It's kind of like that whole thing. It's like, well, we have to hire people based on race instead of character, and it's like the same thing. It's like they take these innocent things, and it's like it's not so much the fact that like, I mean, if someone's gay, then they're gay. I'm not trying to change that, like. Personally, I do think I'm not going to deny Leviticus 18:22. That is my belief, but I'm not going to deny them. Like, you know, if they want to be in a film, by all means, I'm not going to deny them human rights at all.
Here's the way I look at homosexuality.
Right.
So Romans talks about it in the book of Romans, and it talks about it that it's wrong, that it's a sin. To me, it's no different than any other sin. The same sin. So you may be a person that's guilty of homosexuality, of having lustful thoughts about someone the same sex as you. But it's just as much of a sin for a straight person to have lustful thoughts about somebody that they're not married to. And truly. So it's sin. It's all sin.
And that's what I was saying. It's like it's no different than like imagine a kid's show got into a whole thing. And this is the same perversion that I'm talking about. Is imagine if a kid's show got into the topic of like the hero of the show goes and cheats on his wife. And that's supposed to be seen as virtuous. Yeah. No, that's perverse. And that's the same reason that it's like, it's not cool what I'm seeing in these shows. Is because it's just like, even for these normal sins, which, you know, sin is sin. There's no sin greater than any other sin. You know? And so, like, it's just one of those things. It's like, well, if it like, seeing that, where it's like, it's no different than seeing, oh, well, this guy's going to go cheat on his wife or whatever. And, like, as a comedic value, that could be fine. Like, like, say that dog from Tom and Jerry, if he sees a prettier dog than the one he's, like, licking up and runs over there. But let's see, that's the thing, they're dogs, and then, like, that one will usually, like, smack him over the head, and he's, like, left sad. And you're not supposed to see it as virtuous. You're supposed to see it as silly and ridiculous. There's a difference in context here. And it's just, again, everything is, like, coming down to where it's just, like, there's so much going on trying to, normalize what is normal. And, like, something that is kind of disturbing is, like, how we're talking about, like, kids aren't afraid of, like, the things we were afraid of as a kid. Because I was talking about, like, the goblins?
Not goblins.
Gremlins.
Gremlins.
Yeah, Gremlins terrified me when I was a kid. Like, I hated that movie. I was so scared of it. I hated Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. I thought it was terrifying. But, like, when you turn on this stuff in front of a kid, they're like, they're like, that's goofy. And I just don't get it. Like, maybe they're just more ballsy than we were, but I honestly think some desensitization work has gone on throughout generations.
Yeah.
I mean, and that doesn't apply to all kids. Some kids are just, they're not little wimps, But no one's slick as Gaston.
Yes.
No one's quick as Gaston.
Yeah. No one shoots like Gaston.
No one's neck's as incredibly thick as Gaston's.
So, I know you brought up that meme with Bugs Bunny, and just talking about, like, differences in, like, culture and stuff, and, like, stuff that they've, done and everything. This is what's hilarious back then. You got Bugs Bunny, and I put it up on show notes. You got Bugs Bunny with a cigarette sticking out of his mouth.
With a gun.
And this episode's hilarious because he walks in, he's supposed to be the bad hombre, He comes into the bar, and Yosemite Sam's there, and basically Yosemite Sam's kind of like, like the bully of the town, And he walks in, and you can't get in here, varmint. No varmints allowed. So it even actually almost has kind of a racial thing, like rabbits aren't allowed in this bar,
right?
And so he challenges him to a shooting contest. And he says, if I can shoot better than you, I get to stay. And he's like, okay. And so Yosemite Sam, I forgot what he does. I think he splits a hair or something like that. And so then Bugs Bunny says, I'm going to shoot through this deer, and I'm going to carry my shot across the church bell, and da-da-da-da-da-da, and I'm going to, that's what he said, and I'm going to split your hat and hair right down the middle. Split your hair right down the middle. And so he, go ahead, varmint. He shoots, and he bing, 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 goes all over town, and then, whew, and then he's like, ha ha, see, you missed, and his hat like halves and falls in two pieces.
Oh, no kidding, yeah.
Yeah. But this is a whole cartoon where Bugs Bunny and the bad guy both have guns, and Bugs is smoking, and it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a cartoon.
Right. And, someone, you brought this up to me. It's like, if you don't like it, then watch it. And I do agree. And this is kind of more where I want to go with this. Instead of, like, restricting, like, laws, like, there ought to be a law. I just want parents to be aware of, like, what's on the airwaves and, like, tune that to Boomerang or something. Like, don't let your kids watch anything modern.
And that's just it. Like, again, I am not advocating for the end of SpongeBob SquarePants. I don't care. But in my house, my kids are not allowed to watch that trash.
It's fine. And after looking into that, I was like, man, there was some funny shit, like, episodes, man. And it's like, I need to look into it, like, because I do remember, like, it was rather odd, because there was some controversy with the whole SpongeBob thing recently. Because, well, after the producer, or like, sorry, the original like artist and the guy who made SpongeBob passed away, they started throwing SpongeBob on all kinds of things like rainbow flags and all that, where somebody actually asked him, because this isn't the first like Christian criticism like SpongeBob has received. Like they asked him and they're like, well, he's asexual. Like there's no sexual stuff in my show at all. I don't like that idea. No. And like it's kind of sad because like I couldn't trust the modern SpongeBob, and even then, please watch what your kids are watching, because there are some. If you want your kids to be like pure Christian kids in the first place, SpongeBob's probably not the best. I mean, it's not like adult, but it's it's definitely. It's got some jokes that adults would get in there. They have a whole episode about like cussing, which is hilarious, but
Well, the thing is the creator of a cartoon or whatever, they can say whatever they want.
That's true.
But again,
their objective could be very different.
Hold on. Well, going back to God's word, you will know them by their fruit.
Very true. Very true.
And SpongeBob's fruit is fruity.
You know what? Who else is fruity, or Spirit?
Michelle Lujan Grisham?
No, I was going to go somewhere else with that. Joe Biden.
Oh, yeah.
He's fruitier than a punch bowl, that guy.
Yeah, have you heard the latest of what he said?
I've heard a lot of the latest of what he said. He even stuttered again really badly. I mean, not really news at this point, but... like he just... America!
He basically, and I don't know if he was out of his mind and telling the truth or didn't know what he was saying at all.
That's true.
But he actually admitted, he said that the Democrat Party is playing the biggest voter fraud contingency in U.S. history.
Yes, he did say this.
His exact words.
His exact words. And it's weird because I don't think that was even a segment about voter fraud. I think he just let it slip.
No, it wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't. It's like, it basically, okay, so, and I kind of feel sorry. I truly do. I feel sorry for the man because he is having mental issues. It's dementia / Alzheimer's is what it is. Because I went through this with my grandfather before he passed. And so, and my mother more so than me, but he just started losing his mind, and he would say whatever he thought. Like, it's like you go back to being a little kid again, and you have no filter. That's Joe Biden.
And that I definitely feel that. Like, I get it. And it's just one of those odd things because, like, I remember having this conversation because me and him, my father, we would be watching Joe Biden when this was all just kind of getting traction, and we're like, poor man. Like, not that, like, because Joe Biden, he's evil, don't get me wrong. He supported the wrong side for his whole life, for 47 years. Very proud of that. Or he got nothing done for that long. But, me and my father were watching him, and me and my mom, we shared about he's delusional, mental. And Dad's like, oh, no, that's a bit off shade. Don't make fun of someone because, they have mental issues, and that sort of thing. And my father's a very kind man. Soft, a lot less cynical. It's just like one of those things where it's just like, I understand that, like, oh my gosh, what the heck is going on? I feel bad for him because, like, he could, like, have the possibility to change, but the left will not let this old dying man go. Really odd.
Right.
I don't know. But I understand wholeheartedly War Spirit, this, like, pity, even though it's, like, between, like, good and evil here with all this. It's like, what the heck are they doing with this?
Yeah, I don't know. It's sad.
So, his laptop recently, or Hunter Biden's laptop, the son of Joe Biden, has been the case of much controversy in the last few weeks and month or so. In fact, I do believe that this is one of the few things that could very well cost Biden the election, because there's a lot of things you can get away with. in this climate, in this environment right now that we're in, child trafficking is kind of in the spotlight. Whether the media wants to admit it or not, it's everyone's thinking about right now who is in charge of the pedo ring. And when something like this comes out, where they're fighting tooth and nail to keep this under wraps, and it's even considered. So basically, I know Tucker Carlson was talking about this. In transit, this flash drive to wherever it needs to go disappeared from radar for a good a few hours. Then it came back and nothing was wrong, which makes me wonder if someone just switched it, wiped it, whatever. I mean, tell me, these are the most elite bastards in all of history, pretty much. These people know what they're doing. You know, like, oh, they've got the flash drive. Well, zip, execute plan C, and bam. No more proof. No more nothing. So I'm a little worried that, this is all just gone under. Now, whenever we bring it up, it's going to be like, oh, see, it never happened. And I was talking about this with you, War Spirit. I was talking about this. Imagine if, because the leftists, the best thing they got on Trump is tax evasion. I don't know about you, but tax evasion is kind of more of a heroic act to me than anything.
Yeah.
Honestly, that's not going to change any conservative mind. But here's the thing. Compare it, right? If it was completely true, which it isn't, he obeyed every rule. He paid little in taxes because Obama made it where he didn't have to. You're not going to pay money you don't have to. Right? And so, he's a smart businessman. He doesn't pay this money that he doesn't have to. He goes on. So, what I was getting at, if it was completely scummy, if it was completely dirty, that he cheated his way out of taxes, tax evasion.
Right.
That's not really a big deal compared to Hunter Biden's laptop.
No, it just it's like Pulp Fiction. That ain't even in the same ballpark.
Right. It's like sitting here. It's like, yeah, tax evasion. Don't elect him. It's like, that's just one more thing for me to elect him. It's like, man, if he's.
I didn't say it was the same thing. I said it was in the same ballpark.
Right. It's not even in the same ballpark. So, that's what I mean. It's like you're not getting anywhere with this. It's like tax evader or child predator. Really hard decision here. If I would let a tax evader in my house, sure. Would I let a child predator in my house? No. It's simple.
Right.
It's just like, oh, I stole some apples the other day. Oh, well, I killed a man. Oh, well, clearly you're out of the ballpark. It's precisely right. That is.
It's not even that, because if it was versus somebody who's stealing something. See, so tax evasion.
Right.
To me, that's stealing from the government, not from individuals.
Yeah, Robin Hood, basically.
Yeah, so I have no problem with that.
Because the government does nothing but steal from us, so I honestly have no problem with them losing a little bit of bucks. I'm going to be honest.
And if anybody here has a problem with that, remember this. One day, we're all going to die. Every one of us. And the government will tax us for dying.
Oh, how dare you, citizen? Don't you know your government property? Let's see here. War Spirit, would you like to take a 3-minute interval? Quick.
Yeah, sure.
Alright, I'm going to go ahead. We haven't done this in a while. I'm going to go ahead and initiate a
yes.
While we go refresh ourselves. And we are back. Are you with me, War Spirit?
I sure am.
Very good. Normally we don't take breaks mid-show like that. It might be a healthy practice to get back into.
Yeah, it might actually be. You'll be refreshed and be able to keep going.
It's right there. Look at that. It's almost like a godsend. I didn't even script that. It's 10 o'clock, halfway through the show.
Boom.
Mm-hmm. So we're talking about this laptop under Biden. And here's the thing, and I had this thought while emptying my bladder just a moment ago. It's a bit odd. So there's one good quote that is basically all we have like to go off of this as a major like thing is, well, a computer repair place wouldn't call the FBI over crack, but they would over CP or other nefarious things with children. Which has already been a running gag with the Democrats and that sort of thing as it is. So, it's understandable that we're like, all right, well, what do you have to say, Joe Biden? And here's the thing, right? Because Joe Biden could say this. He's like, well, I am not my son's actions. But he's yet to do that. He's yet to claim anything to do with this. He's like, it's all lies. My son didn't do that. Which is odd, because it's like, well, what's on that laptop that might infract upon you, Joe? That's my question. Because it's like, at that point, this would be easily settled. It's like, oh, well, yeah, my son, whatever, I'm not his actions. And be done with it. But he hasn't done that. He wants this to be hidden. So, other than that, like, it's like, well, to prove it to you, here it is. That's not happening at all. So it's like, I don't know. It's just one of those things that it's like, because like I haven't even heard that from the left. So maybe on that point, hang on to this, keep pushing him. Don't be like, oh well, yeah, it's his son, not him, and just give up. There's something more going on with this. I mean, yeah, like his son, I don't know, man. Like his son is off the walls baddie. Like,
yeah.
Like he's coke is a proven thing. But that same thing is like, well, people are like, well, cocaine, whatever. Johnny Cash did cocaine. It's like, but it's like, here's the thing. Johnny Cash didn't look at CP, and all this other stuff. It's comparing a tax evasion to CP all over again. So it's like one of those things. It's like, Biden, what are you hiding from the world that is carried on your son's computer? I am convinced that it has something to do more with Joe than it even has to do with his son.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even further on, because I'm going to tell you right now, and the main reason I have to go off of this is not so much that, oh, well, I must defend my son, right? Because that's another theory people throw up. Oh, he's just defending his boy. He doesn't want his name to be tarnished. Here's the thing. Democrats are willing to throw anybody under the bus. These people would steal from their own mother's purse. Like, don't give me that. If it meant between losing the presidency, losing that power, or, confessing your child's, like, issues, they would choose confessing their child's issues every time to throw them under the bus so their name themselves wasn't tarnished. So that's kind of what I'm seeing the theme of here. And,
definitely.
It's just like, I mean, this is all just speculation, but the fact is, there's something horrendous on that computer that the left does not want to getting out at all.
Right.
And another thing, War Spirit, if we want to get into it, we did a film last Saturday that we released.
We did. It's called Attack of the Skinwalker. And don't be fooled by its scary sounding name, folks. It's a comedy.
It's we were kind of gonna like, it was funny. So I guess I'll just go ahead and go into like the documentary of what it is. Right? Attack of the Skinwalker. We excuse me. Must have got COVID. Attack of the Skinwalker is a film that we were planning for about 3 weeks. The idea came along because we knew Halloween was coming, and we had never really done a flick. Like, we've never done a video together. And we've done podcasts, and we want this to become a reoccurring thing where we make videos instead of just podcasts, because honestly, who has all the time every night to make it, or every Friday night? Sometimes you don't got time. Sometimes you just want to check out the highlights and the funny things, which we'll do in videos. So, Attack of the Skinwalker is a 13-minute film detailing two journalists or newsmen for a local agency who investigate skinwalker sightings, and along the way, they meet many interesting characters, and then inevitably find the answers they were looking for. And it's right. Quite an adventure. I enjoyed making the film with War Spirit and others. IT even stars in it. And I gotta say, those are the most fun I've had on any Sunday. Or any Saturday in like a long time. Because we filmed it on a Saturday and we used a few locations. Mainly like Chokecherry and like the abandoned station, which were both very fun. My favorite scene in the get-go of everything is definitely at least midway through. Like, one of my favorite scenes is the flute scene with flowing water.
Yes.
Yeah. I watching that again during editing just outright cracked me up. Like, I lost it because the camera work, reviewing it, you don't really see how the camera looks until you're editing. And when that panned over and showed flowing water with the flute, I busted a gut laughing. This is golden. There's a lot of really awesome work done with the camera, and we can't thank everyone who came out enough.
Yes.
And the actor of Redcorn is one of my closest friends, as well as the actor of Flowing Water. Among everyone else there is pretty much a close friend. It was really all of my brothers got together to make a film. We did something together, and I hope it goes out and reaches far. I hope it like really, everyone around town sees this film.
Right.
Yeah.
Little funny tidbit for you guys out there listening to us. So, Flowing Water was the ring bearer in me and my wife's wedding.
Oh, yes.
That's how long I have known Flowing Water.
And me, for that matter.
Yes. Yeah, because you was about the same age. Well, a little bit older, but...
Right.
But, so... Some aspects that I'd like to talk about the film. First of all, it was a blast to make with you guys, and fellas out there, if you hear this podcast, it helped us. We can't thank you enough. You guys did awesome. It was so fun getting to do that with you, and just so everybody knows, so we all worked as a true team, because everybody had input and everybody had ideas that we used throughout the whole filming of this, which was great. We didn't even have a script too much written up. We just decided each scene how we were going to do it. And, somebody said, hey, it'd be really cool if we did this. And we're like, oh, yeah, cool. And so we just threw it all together. And because of that, a good and a bad thing happened. The good part is it was all very genuine. It didn't look like we were acting.
Right.
The bad part is, and those of you for that, I just want to give you a warning. There was a lot of language, and I want to be the first to apologize for my part. I cuss sometimes.
Right. You're not generally
just is what
a
it
huge
is.
cusser, yeah. I'm definitely get a kick out of that.
But it just felt right for the character. And that's what I was doing. I was playing a character.
Right.
So sorry for that. Anybody that's out there listening is like, oh, that's kind of odd of him. I'm like, no, it's a character. It was a comedy. And then also, it's kind of funny. There's one scene that talks about why I'm War Spirit, and I won't go into the scene, but I want to tell the audience out there. So, I come up with the name War Spirit one morning after doing my devotion. And I was reading out of Ephesians 6. And Ephesians 6 talks about how our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against rulers and principalities and spiritual evil forces in the heavenly realms. And I was like, that's really cool. Like, so the war is going on spiritually. And it just hit me. I was like, that'd be kind of a cool handle.
Right.
War Spirit. And so that's just stuck with me ever since.
Right.
But we did kind of a comedic thing with it. You guys need to check it out. I'm not going to tell you because it'll. I don't want to ruin any of the good one-liners because this show is full of one-liners.
I noticed that when I was editing. I was like, this is nothing but like one tap hits on like the goofiest of ways.
Yeah.
And I mean, by all means, it's not a bad thing, but I find it hilarious. Like, it's such a cultured film, too, and it's so specific to this region.
It is. It's specific to this region, and because there's so many one-liners, it really made me feel like we did a Mel Brooks film.
Right.
Because Mel Brooks is well known for one-liners. And so immediately that night after we got done filming, when I got home, or actually it was partially into the next day, I turned on and watched Blazing Saddles, which is a hilarious film. If you guys haven't seen it, please go watch Blazing Saddles right now after the show.
Right.
It's about a country sheriff that originally was working on the railroad, but there's a little twist to it. See, this is the Wild West, and he's black.
Uh-oh.
And the funny thing is Mel Brooks doesn't shy away from showing both racism and then also making fun of the white people for being stupid.
Exactly.
So they make fun of both races. And it is hilarious.
All right, and that's what you'll see, of course, in our film that we've made, Attack of the Skinwalker. And, like, most notably is the scene where we arrive at Chokecherry. And I'm saying, and this was drawn up and in agreement with the actor and everything, he thought it was absolutely hilarious. And he's always had a sense of humor, was, because we were, our idea was like, oh, what if we actually did him doing smoke signals, right? Like, what if we had, like, a fire and he, like, made smoke signals that was, like, over here, Billigana or something like that. And I was like, there's no way I could do that with my current equipment. Like, there's no way I could film, like, special effects-wise, there's no way I could make that happen. So
right.
I started going through my head as, like, a workaround, and I was like, what if, I go in there like a total ignorant dumbass, and I'm just like, hey, let's look for smoke signals. That's the only way to find Native Americans. And then my phone would ring, and it would be the actor, Redcorn, and he would be like, hey, I saw you drive by. What are you doing in Choke? Basically. And I was like, well, we're looking for smoke signals. And he would be like, well, we don't do that. And that's how we found our workaround. And I like that more because it's hilarious. And then some improv towards the end, which we hadn't really thought this through. I stare at War Spirit and I say, is that kind of racist? And he responds, that's effing racist. And it just made the scene. It made the scene, which was entirely, again, unscripted. But other than my phone was going to ring at some point, that was all I knew that was scripted. And it was good fun with that bit. And every scene was just like hearing everyone get together to make these ideas. Like, there was so much that even Redcorn brought in that really cracked me up. Like, he brought out these, what do they call them? The little fire sticks on 4th of July. What do they call them?
Oh, sparklers.
Sparklers, yeah. He brought this package of sparklers, and he's like, how could we use this? And I was like, maybe we could use it to, like, ward off the Skinwalker. And he's like, I'll tell you what, how about, instead of that, I sell it to you guys as, like, snake oil. And I was like, oh, good. I was like, this is grand. And that's where we went with Attack of the Skinwalker. On that. That was the final, cut with the Twizzlers. Or the Sparklers. I don't know why I call them Twizzlers.
And he had great just improv stuff, like talking about the Skinwalker and the things it hated and high gas prices.
Yeah, high gas prices. That took us 4 times.
Don't you hate high gas prices?
It took us 4 attempts filming with him. Not because he was bad, but because
because he was so freaking funny.
Yeah, we wouldn't be able to keep a straight face. He would say something like high gas prices, and we would just be done. We would just be ruined, wheezing on the ground. Because it's high gas prices? What are we supposed to say to that, And, again, this isn't a scripted thing where we practiced it or anything. It just came out, and, even down to the bit where it's, this idea where War Spirit gets gypped $60. Because, I'm such a skinflint in anyways, but, the film really portrays me as a skinflint, and I keep, pointing to him whenever they ask for money. He's like, really? And he even shouts, John! At the last, time they ask for money.
I am not paying anymore!
Right.
Yeah, it was great. It was great. And just the way, and again, so, to the audience out there, going back to Blazing Saddles, and that's what I actually really love about this, is I kind of feel like almost we unwittingly, because I don't know if the whole team has watched Blazing Saddles or not, but made a spiritual successor. And in no way am I saying I'm as good as the great Mel Brooks as far as directing. Don't get me wrong on that. But in our little way, we made kind of a tribute to Blazing Saddles in some of the ways where, again, even Redcorn's character kind of makes fun of his own race with selling my juries. That's the one that freaking made me lose it.
Yeah, that one was so out of nowhere. Because, I remember that, scene where we pan over, and I have that in the blooper reel, which I'll upload probably tonight or tomorrow. Probably tomorrow after the film's got some circulation.
Yeah.
And, and so, I remember, because the camera pans, and he's, selling my jewelries to make ends meet. And I pan over to, and I don't want to give away that scene at all, but I pan over away to another character, and I hear War Spirit just start wheezing. And once he goes, the whole cast goes, because everyone's freaking sitting here trying not to laugh, and once someone gives in, the whole crowd just went roaring. You could probably hear us across Chokecherry. And it's such a healthy thing to laugh. If I were to put some kind of deep input onto the film, in comedy in general, is it's such an important thing to laugh. And, I'm not saying you have to laugh at everything, but when you can laugh, is to laugh genuine. If something you find is funny, and it genuinely is funny, then laugh. And that was one of those things, and it's I was really worried pushing this film, because in the climate these days, people are like, oh, it's racist. I'm really worried that someone might not bother to watch past the whole smoke signal thing and just start typing an angry comment before they've watched all of the film. They just caught out, that's racist, you guys are a bunch of racists, and it's I'm
sure if it makes it that much, if it gets circulated that much, there are going to be some naysayers. I mean, there are people, again, going back to Blazing Saddles, that just are appalled that it's still even allowed in the United States.
Right.
But what they don't understand is, so the actors on that film with Mel Brooks, and I'm having a brain fart right now of their names, all of them. A lot of them have played in several Mel Brooks films, because they were a lot like Adam Sandler, is they all got together and they made movies together because they had fun. And the actor, the black actor in that, he was responsible for a lot of his own one-liners. He is the one that I believe had the idea for the scene with him and Madeline Kahn. And Madeline Kahn's supposed to be seducing him. And so she goes over and she turns out the light and she goes and sits down by him on the couch, and you can't see all this because it's black. You can't see it. And she said, "Is it true what they say about your kind?" And you hear zip, whomp. Oh, it's true. Oh, it's true. And it's just, and he had the idea for that, and it was hilarious.
Right. Well, here's the thing. Mel Brooks is a proud Jewish individual, right?
Yeah.
And like, he was in another film. It's one of his older films called "To Be or Not to Be."
Okay.
And the concept of it is that he and others are part of this Polish theater house during World War II.
Oh no.
Yeah, so like the show immediately opens up, and Mel Brooks is playing the part in a skit in the film for theater of Hitler. And it like immediately opens up, and he's like, "I want peace! 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 A little piece of Poland, a little piece of France, a little piece of Portugal, and Africa by chance," and it's just hilarious. And like he's portraying this like, this goofy character as, Hitler. He's making fun of Hitler.
Mm-hmm.
And somebody comes along, and what's funny about it is it's actually quite a good critique of like getting onto people for comedy. Because immediately what happens is someone who's like one of the Polish people, like one of the Polish government officials, comes up to him after the show and is like, "You shouldn't make things like that. You can't do that again. Never. That'll really make Germany angry. Hitler will come," that sort of thing. And Mel Brooks is like, so what? Let him come. And it's just like one of those things where it's just like, I will not be silenced. I am not afraid. This is comedy. It is just a joke.
Yeah.
And in this way, he was making fun of an enemy, which would have been at the time. So, but a lot of people, they're so like brainwashed, and like they're looking for dragons to slay constantly in life because they're so pathetic that they'll like look at this scene where Mel Brooks is making fun of Hitler and be like, see, he's praising Hitler. Excuse me? It's like, well, see, featuring Hitler or mentioning Hitler is praising him. It's like, no. It's like, don't you realize he killed like 6 million Jews? I'm like, well, I fail to see how making fun of someone who done such a heinous thing is that bad. And I'll go as far as to say, is like, if someone tells a Holocaust joke, though it's in poor taste, it's a freaking joke. Get the hell over
Exactly.
it. Exactly.
Like,
it's like, oh, but you'd feel different if you were Jewish. I'm like, well, I'm not Jewish at the moment, so I'm sorry. No, I don't know. But like,
one of the first Holocaust jokes, quote unquote, that I heard was from a Jewish guy. So
it's the same thing. The best jokes I hear concerning race are told by the people who are that race.
Because we understand it. I can tell white jokes because I understand white people.
And something that did crack me up was like, and there's been a surge of this because everyone hates whites, but listen, something that did crack me up is like, how come white women love to put the live, laugh, love shit all over their house? Like, that drives me up a wall, but making jokes about it makes me laugh because it's true. I've been in those houses, and I'm like, what the hell?
That and man, are you good? You got COVID or something?
I might.
You're coughing, wheezing, snuffing.
I might. I didn't wear my mask on Halloween.
Another one that if you'll notice, middle class white women always like sporting on their cars and on T-shirts is hustle kindness.
I almost spit my water out. Yes. Oh my lord, man. Always with the hustle kindness, dude. It's kind of like, it's the equivalent of like, and here's another one that really made me laugh, is like the Farmington white dude with his American Fighter shirt.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it's the same thing. It's like, and he'll either be like decent shape or terrible shape, and he's got this like American Fighter shirt on, and it's that same thing. It's like, do bears take a shit in the woods? You know what I mean? And it's just like, that's kind of the comedy we're aiming for, is a very localized thing with like skinwalkers and everything else. And some people might find, oh, that's off shade, you know, you're making fun of a very real thing to the native people. I'm like, well, in this case, we're making fun of Hitler. You know what I mean? Like, we're making fun of a skinwalker. We're making fun of everyone, including ourselves. You know, the film very much depicts us. We say these idiotic things, and we pay the price of being idiotic. It is in no ways putting ourselves above anyone else. But that's the thing. It's like, I don't feel the need to describe this, but like immediately, it's like, what a sad thing in this like climate where people feel the need. And they're like, oh no, I wasn't being racist. I was just telling a joke. Because that didn't used to be how it was, man.
Well, and that's the really sad thing is so what ruins a joke the most is when you have to explain the joke.
Yeah, precisely.
When you have to explain a joke, it just ruins it.
Especially, it's like, and it just ruins it. And like, instead of getting laughter, it's like they just get this angry look, and it's like, what? Well, I don't think it was very funny. I'm like, oh, all right.
Then don't watch it.
I know.
I just shared it to my page, and I did. You know, I got lots of Christian friends, and
basically,
that wouldn't appreciate the cussing,
right.
And so I gave them a warning that there is cussing on there. And
I
said,
also put that in the official video link.
I have cussed on here,
right? And the
so
official
if that bothers you, please don't watch it.
Right, don't do it. And in the main link, it says, you know, language warning and disclaimer and that sort of thing. And
yeah,
let's see here. And it's just like, and it's like one thing, right? It's like, well, I don't think that was a very good quality film. That's fine, you know, go ahead. But like, if someone comes up here and is like, that's racist, that's just completely uncalled for. You know, that's ridiculous. And there's something that like even everybody brought up is like, ooh, is that going to cause issues? And I was like, so what if it does? It's a joke. And it's not so much like, oh, you know, like I want people to make fun of literally everything. It's just like, I don't see the harm in anything we said at all. And so I'm just waiting for that one commenter to come along, or few whatever that come along that are just like, you know, and I'll tell you what it'll be is like they'll find the film hilarious. They'll go to our page. They'll see that we're right wing oriented. Then they'll start going after the whole racist thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's usually how it goes. It's like, oh, that was really funny. Wait, they're right wingers, you know, and they short circuit and have a freaking heyday.
Someone's coming to mind that we both know, but I'm not going to say his name.
Oh no,
you know
there's a few names. I don't know, because I've said one name that I'm thinking of before, and drinking I almost posted it on the page, but I didn't. I almost just put F you McGahee. That's what I'm going to call him. Afro McGahee.
So to our listeners, if you ever see a strange post on there, it may be because of alcohol impairedness from either one of us. We apologize, and we'll remove it as soon as possible.
I remember drinking with IT once, and he's like, John, you need to make sure your phone is away from you. I'm like, why? He's like, you lead a media page now, and it's huge. The last thing I want you to do is post what you're thinking while you're drunk. And it really cracked me up. I was like, it's a pretty good, valid point.
Right.
But that, you know, yes, there are people out there that will just lose it. I don't know. It's like, there's a black individual. His name is Eric July. He is the vocalist for a pro capitalist band called Backwards. That's backword with a Z, and like word is in WORD. So Backwards, and he's the vocalist of this band. And I love what he has to say on Twitter a lot, because he'll be sitting here and he's like, I don't know, what is it? Like, he's like, I walk around, but leftists want me to believe that there's a masked KKK dude behind every corner that's trying to kill me. He said, most people I meet have no problems with, like, they don't deal with prejudicism. They don't, he's like, it isn't real as they want us to believe. And he's representing his race. And he goes on and he says, I don't know what's with these liberal psycho creeps of needing an effing dragon to slay.
Right.
He's like, it's just not real. And so, like, I really appreciated that. And I like Eric July. I've followed him a long time. And it's just like one of those things that's just like, it's such an unfounded, unbased thing. And the reason I'm talking about this is because it's a real problem facing our media these days. If you haven't noticed, comedy is not as funny as it was back then.
Sure.
Like, they're afraid to step on the mines of humor because there's always going to be that one person. Which, what we haven't failed to realize is, as like a nation and as comedians a lot of the times, is that this has always been the case. Like, since the beginning of comedy. Is that there's always been someone, I didn't think that was very funny. That's always been the case.
Mm-hmm.
And here's the thing that's different now, is that, like, companies and stuff have started to take it into account. It's like, oh, well, Karen said she didn't like it very much, so we have to ban that. We can't have you on our show anymore. And, like, while everyone else thought it was effing hilarious, this one Karen now has ruined it for everyone. And we've allowed this to become a normal thing. It's called cancel culture.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, somebody makes one slip up or something or whatever, and everyone will find it funny, except a select few who probably have other beef with the named actor or comedian or whatever, and then they'll just ride with it, and the company in charge will be like, oh, can't have that, people are angry, and then their ratings drop to nothing, and so they just eventually the show ends because it's just not funny anymore. So I don't know, it's just like one of those things. It's like, I'm sick to death of the censorship of comedy. That's why I enjoyed the ending of Joker so much. That's not funny, Arthur. Well, I think it is. And I don't know, that's pretty much the main bulk of the show this evening.
I do, talking about comedy, John.
Yep.
I have to ask you something.
Mm-hmm.
You are Starship Captain. Imagine that.
I'm imagining.
In the Star Trek universe, and your science officer comes on and says, "Captain, we have found a new species of alien.
No.
And this alien has no body and no nose." And you say, "What kind of alien is that?" And your science officer says, "Nobody knows."
Have you ever looked into something called the Secure, Contain, Protect Foundation? I've heard this joke from you a million times, but I was like, man, I really feel like
that was more for our listeners.
I know, like, morally speaking, I was sitting there, I'm like, close your ears now, dear listeners, just skip. But like, I was like, I felt this pain. You have to feel it too. Okay.
Yes, and our listeners out there. So listeners out there, I'm a huge Star Trek nerd. I love Star Trek, and so Star Trek jokes are really funny. What does toilet paper and the Enterprise have in common?
What's that?
They both circle Uranus looking for Klingons.
That's actually pretty funny. Actually, that's actually pretty funny. I like that one. I'll give you that. The reason I mentioned this organization, the Secure, Contain, Protect Foundation, aka SCP, because basically what it is that creative minds have got on the internet. You know, like cryptids, like Bigfoot and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
There's this massive library on the internet. You can find it at like scp.com or something like that. And there's just many like different journal entries of like that have been approved by like the leaders of the website to be like canon and lore. And what it is this like this containment facility for different cryptids and different things, and they all do different things. Like there's this like, and depending on their scale of like, they have like safe, Euclid, and Keter, which is like these ratings of like how lethal they are.
Mm-hmm.
And so like there's like, for example, there's this one that like, I was trying to think. There's like this stairway that never ends, and this face that'll show up after like floor 80. It'll stare back at you, and like you'll never be the same. And like, so basically they like lock off this stairway, and it's like locked off by the SCP Foundation. And so I was saying is like, good God, you might be an SCP that needs to be contained, because like it's like, you know, you'll be like SCP like 987 or something like that, and it like the whole thing is like, you'll just like your jokes, because you're Keter, you're beyond lethal, and your jokes can like cause an entire suicide like thing. So it's like, SCP Foundation, pick him up, please, because his jokes are effing lethal. Like, these will kill a man. These will drive a man suspiciously to just die.
Those are just some spicy dad jokes. That's all they is.
I know that's what they is. And I'm even guilty upon all Nuremberg trials for telling a few of my own in life. Could you imagine, like, a trial like that? It's like, it's like child abuse. You know, it's like a father is like in court because of the jokes he tells his kids. It's like, you know, it's like when I shifted my gear in my truck to reverse when I was with my ex, and I looked at her, and we were going in reverse. I said, "Man, this really brings me back." You know, like, that is pretty bad. You know,
yeah.
You know, it's pretty lethal, and it's like one of those things. Like, I'm gonna get up to God, and God's gonna be like, "Nah, son, you ain't coming up to heaven, dog." That's why that's why she became a witch, dude.
Dang. So, listeners out there, here would be a fun thing for you, if whoever's listening. What was your dad's favorite phrase?
Oh, like, man.
Oh, so there's several, but here's a pretty good one that I've heard lots of dads say. So, after like a dad like comes up like to mechanic or whatever after they get done fixing like something, and they want to know how much it is, they'll say, "What's the damage?"
Yeah, they will. Oh, and you know, even my father has a few phrases, and that just run in the family, you know. And
or how about when two old men meet each other?
Oh, man.
And they'd say, "I can't believe they let you in here."
Right. Or, "Oh, here's trouble."
Yeah. I've been guilty of some of those, actually.
Yeah, I know. You know, you got a pretty funny catchphrase yourself. Finer than a frog hair split 3 ways and crushed flat, you know.
Yes, sir.
That really cracks me up every time I hear it.
Or, see, when you want to thank somebody, you tell them, "Sir, you are an officer and a gentleman, and other things too numerous to mention at this time." Yeah.
And it's funny. It's such a dad thing, listening to it. I'm like, oh, there he goes again.
Yeah. But post in the comments, anybody that's listening, what was your dad's favorite phrase that he said like all the time?
Yeah, I would like to hear that or read it, because like we might find commonalities between our fathers, and it is just humorous, you know, just like those good inner jokes that make to just bond a family together.
Yes, definitely.
You know, and it's like that. You know, my favorite part of every Thanksgiving dinner, which is something else coming up, is the jokes, like, you know, or the stories and stuff that come along. Like, for example, one of the stories, like, I'll say this, like, I mean, it's like the big secret. One of the big secrets that I really get a kick out of is me and my sister, we would play a game that had to do with, like, people. And what we would do is, like, we'd be in a public place, and we would see someone who was just hideous. I know it's really harsh to say someone's hideous, I know, but hey, I live in Farmington, and she lives in, like, California, dude. You're gonna see hideous people. So what we would do is we'd see someone, and instead of saying anything like mean, we'd just like look at one or the other, and if one of us catches it first, they'd say, that person's on your team. And it was like, damn it! You know what I mean? And it's just like one of those things that really cracked me up, like thinking about it in retrospect. Because it had been years since I've done this with my sister, and I went and saw her recently. And I saw a dude, and his like stomach was hanging out of his shirt, and like, you know, he's got these like really short shorts on, and like was walking down the street, and his stomach's jiggling. I'm like, hey Liz, she's like, what? I'm like, he's on your team. You know, she all sucker punches me, and she's like, John, we were done with it. It just cracks me up. All right, you know, just these are the things that just bond a family together.
Very much so, and it's really cool to have like inside family jokes. Like,
yeah,
my family we have a lot of my inside family jokes. Okay, so you know that I'm a film buff.
Yeah.
Well, my whole family loves movies, and so we quote movie quotes to each other all the time.
Oh yeah.
And so, and one of our favorite movie quotes is actually from a Goldie Hawn movie called Wildcats. It's an 80s film about Goldie Hawn going into an inner city and being a football coach. And it's just full of like, and it makes no sense, like if somebody else listened to us say it, because it like makes no context.
You stole my mother's glasses type beat.
Well, that really happened.
Right.
My mother's glasses. I'll have to tell maybe that sometime on air. I don't know if we have time for it now, but
right.
Like some because these are inner city kids, so they're black guys, and so one of them is Drillo. He's like the running back, and they always say Drillo, he fast. And so if somebody was running, we would always say that. Drillo, he fast.
That's funny. There's a lot of things, like with jokes that bring a nation together as well.
Yeah,
you know, and it's like nothing helps a wounded soul more than a good laugh.
Definitely,
you know. And you know, like I get that. It's just so much charming little jokes in life, and you know, we're very close to the holiday season, and I'll tell you one thing, and I mean, we're kind of freebasing it right now. I'll tell you what I really love, and a lot of people give me hell for this, and it's I usually fatten up around Christmas time for this reason. In fact, that's probably a lot of the weight I'm losing is from last Christmas. Eggnog. I just adore eggnog. I really do. I know a lot of people don't, but
I'm not a big fan.
Right.
I don't mind the alcohol that goes into the eggnog. Right. I'll just have my eggnog eggnog free with the alcohol.
I don't know. I'll be honest, Chief. Like I've loved everything that's like milk like when it comes to drinks, like chocolate milk, just regular. A lot of people really wigged out. They're like, you just poured milk into a red Solo cup and drink it. I'm like, oh.
I do that. I'll drink milk.
So it's like, you know, like I'll be honest, man. I actually prefer eggnog without alcohol, because it just ruins the taste. And for me, it was always a taste. Granted, I could never have more than like 2 cups in one sitting, or else I'd get like sick. I think that's anybody with eggnog.
Probably so. I don't like the taste of it. It just
right.
Sweet milk is not. Of course. Okay, so I was a weird kid.
Right.
I actually preferred regular milk in school than chocolate milk.
Understandable. I mean, like, I always preferred vanilla, personally. Like, everybody else had chocolate ice cream, but I always liked vanilla more.
Yeah, vanilla's good.
Yeah, and it's like, I don't know, it was like weird, because like I remember like once, because when I was a kid, I thought chocolate ice cream was invented in my lifetime. You know what I mean? Like, as I had always gotten vanilla, like my folks always got me vanilla when I was growing up. Like, not as I was growing up, but like for the longest time. And then somebody was like, how would you like chocolate ice cream? And I was like, they got that? And they you know, I introduced myself to it, and so I was like, oh, well, this is the new thing. I'm going to order chocolate every time. And eventually, when I was like old enough to like use my head a little bit, I was like, I wonder what vanilla tastes like again. Like, it had been so long, so I tried vanilla and really enjoyed it. More so. But I'll tell you what I really enjoy when it comes to ice cream is like chocolate and vanilla mixtures. Especially like little chocolate bars, and like cookies and cream is my cocaine. I love that.
Right.
Yeah, I'm all about that, cookies and cream. You need to stop it, man. I'm on keto, man. I'm dying here.
Yeah, well, let's say something to take your mind off of
bacon.
it. So another good dad joke for you guys out there, because the new year is going to be approaching.
See, this
soon.
is the scary segment of the show for Halloween.
Yeah, this is the frightening. So after New Year's, because New Year's Eve, usually most people work on New Year's Eve unless it's a weekend or whatever. But so what you say after New Year's, like so January 2nd to your coworkers is, man, I haven't seen you since last year.
Yeah. Oh man. I was guilty of that until I heard someone else do it, and I felt that blind rage, and I never did it again. Like it was like one of those things I always thought was like, oh, I'd walk in and do it, and then somebody else did it to me one year, and I just wanted to beat their life in. I just wanted to grab their head and slam it against something, but like, yeah, it's one of those things. I thought it was hilarious until I heard someone else do it, and I was like,
Here's another old guy phrase when he greets his old friends. Well, look what the cat dragged in.
Speaking of the devil is one that I use a lot.
Yeah. Speak of the devil.
Yeah, which is a terrible thing to say. Like, it's kind of like just a figure of speech. Most people don't really look into it when they hear it. But it downright cracks me up because I've always been very analytical. Like, I just analyze everything that's said to me. And like, I always heard like talking to like, talk about the devil, right? Or whatever, or like talking about the devil. It's like, speak of the devil. And so I would walk in somewhere and I hear it my whole life. And I remember one time, like, it sunk to me what they were saying. And I was like, hey, that's kind of messed up. Like, I wasn't like hurt about it, like, because I know it's just a figure of speech, but I've always been very analytical, and it's actually been difficult being an aspiring vocalist sometimes, because I will look at these lyrics, and I've heard the song, and I know how they sing it, but how the lyrics are written, I have a way of saying certain words, and I have to conquer that in my brain. Like, I don't know if anybody else has that issue when they're like reading something, or like trying to like sing something or remember a way something was said. But it's like you have your way of like, this was taught to me how this was spoken. And then you're trying to overcome that to make it fit somewhere else.
I guess I haven't. I don't know.
Maybe, maybe I'm just freaking got the brain damage from all those times my dad told me dad jokes. I don't know.
Speaking of if your dad told you dad jokes, so after you really did hurt yourself as a kid, and your dad says, bet you won't do that again.
Hey, I'm all for that one. I like that one. Like, as a kid, yeah, it sucks, but like, at the same time, it's a valuable effing lesson. That's one of the few things is like people being against that, or like the snowflakes. That's where snowflakes come from, is their dad never told them, bet you won't do that again.
Yeah, well, you see, the snowflakes, their dad didn't allow them to go ahead and do that. See,
right.
A really good dad unless you're actually really gonna hurt yourself,
Right.
like
Playing in
jump
traffic.
off of a house or jump in front of a car. Your dad's just get like for example, you tell a little kid, you got your wood stove at the house, and you tell him, hey, that's hot, don't touch it.
Mm-hmm.
You only tell them once because they'll figure it out.
Right.
Because all three of my girls, they touch the stove. The directions. Yeah. Oh, and here's another dad joke. Directions are written all over that, wasn't it?
Right. And speaking of that, it's a valuable thing. And I always hated it when my father would do this, but I'm very thankful he did. And so one of the things, and people might get angry at this because I'm not a father myself, but I've taken care of my niece and nephew on several occasions. They're with me, and we've got a bonfire in the back, and this little metal out a ways is still really hot from the fire. It's pretty warm. And it's just this little piece of metal that's sticking out. And I watched all of, these kids in life, all of these kids, doing these things, just because their parents told them not to, right? Just on that simple premise alone. So I watched my nephew, and he's walking that way, and he's going to put his hand on it. I said, don't do that. And I pull his hand away, and I said, that's going to burn you, dude. That's going to hurt. Don't. And I looked at him real harsh, don't do that. And I remember seeing that look in his eyes. You can always tell with little kids. It was I'm going to do it anyway, And, my sister, the mother of these children, was sitting right there. And I watched him as he acted like he wasn't doing it. And then he came back, and I watched him. And I wasn't on my phone. I watched him just put his hand on it, yank it back, start screaming. And, his mom's what the heck? I thought you were watching him. I'm I was. Then why didn't you stop it? Because I already told him once.
Yeah.
And she threw a fit about it. She was really angry at that. You let him burn his little fingers. And, it was
again.
Yes, and that's exactly what I said. And that's,
you won't do that again.
And my sister was very aggravated when I said it. Because I said that, bet you won't do that again. And there was a lot of that with those kids that I had to deal with. They're playing with this door, and they're closing it, and their fingers are really close to getting in there. And I'd be you guys need to stop it. And I would warn them and tell them not to do it. But after a while, I'm just, I'm not going to tell you again. You're going to learn. And boom, sure enough, bet you won't do that again, And it's just
Exactly. So the snowflakes of this generation have been coddled so much that they are not allowed to learn. That's a learning thing.
Yep.
Pain is a really good learning tool.
You remember pain.
You do.
I don't remember the first time I smashed my finger, but I sure remember that I don't want to do it again.
Exactly.
You might not remember the context, but that feeling remains.
Here's another good one for everybody out there. I know we're kind of reaching the end of our deal, but so your kids come up to you. So this will be my final one if you want to say something else or whatever. But
no,
my final one is your kids come up to you and say, Dad, I'm hungry. Hi, hungry. I'm your dad. Nice to meet you.
My folks never really did that one much. But I'll tell you one thing my father did, and this is a Christian thing. I'll tell you this real quick. Dad! Because, dads will just do this. Let's go, bud. Where?
Yeah.
Dad, where are we going? Let's go. And so it's Dad, where are we going? And they'll just look at you. To hell if we don't repent.
Yeah. I always heard it as to hell if we don't change our ways.
Yeah. But my dad was always to hell if we don't repent. And I remember just sitting there angrily damn it!
I actually almost consider that more of a redneck phrase than a dad phrase, because I got lots of redneck phrases too. Mm-hmm. This one here, and I'm sorry folks, this one does include a cuss word, but it doesn't hit, just doesn't slap as hard unless you say it. Shit fire to save matches. My grandmother used to say that.
Shit fire to save matches?
Yeah, I really doesn't really ever understood why. What? Why?
That was
a
yeah. Sorry.
it was basically like you used it like I'll be darned, because she'd be like, well, shit fire to save matches.
Right. Well, another thing too is like in the same way of like when you hurt yourself as a kid, and this was kind of more of my mother's side. A lot of these apply to moms too, mom jokes. The one my mom said, being a deep Texan, I mean Christian Texan, whatever, but Texan, being a deep Texan, I remember I was doing something at like Sam's Club, and she was like, "Don't do that." I'm like, "I'm not gonna mess it up. I'm not gonna mess it up." And I like knocked over all this like toilet paper on the ground, like all over the place. And it was the first time I ever heard it from her. And she said, "Way to fire, match head."
What?
Way to fire, match head. Have you ever heard that?
Way to fire, match.
You've never heard that. I grew up hearing that from my mother all the time. Way to fire, match head. And so it basically is like, well, good job or good going.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah,
but
that's something I always heard. It's kind of like that same old thing. It's like with phrases and everything. I was talking about like how my mom saw a big old crawdad in the back, and so she comes in, and IT's sitting next to me at the time, and she comes in. There's a big old honky crawdad in the backyard, and to me, I grew up hearing this. I didn't think anything of it. Big old. Because like how I always figured it is you have big old, huge, and big old honking.
Yeah, it's like fluffy and like, damn!
Yeah, it's like the same thing. It's like levels of fatness. You got big, bigger, huge, and big ol' honking.
That's right.
And so, like, my mom comes in, she's a big ol' honking crawdad in the backyard. IT starts wheezing. Like, he is losing it. And I'm like, what's so funny? I'm like, I'm freaking out. Like, why did he just start laughing? And he looks at me, he's so big ol' honking. It sunk in. And it's just one of those things that we hear in life. Again, these things bring families together. And
I got phrases that I guess people probably do think that makes me sound more redneck than others. Probably one of my worst ones. There's a couple. And my wife even saw this when we were dating, because I am far more redneck than she is. So with hers, because I asked her, this is like maybe the first or second date we went on.
Oh, I love hearing date stories between you and your wife. They're so funny.
And
like, you and the most innocent creature on the planet.
So she asked me, she said, "Are you off work yet?" Because she was excited to get to go to a movie with me. And I said, "I'm fixing to." I said, "I just got to lock up." And to me, that's just the way I talk. It's just, I can sound intellectual if I wish, but if I'm just talking with a friend or a loved one,
big ol' honking type would be.
Yeah. And I almost always said fixing to. Well, she thought that was the most redneck thing. And so at the time, I didn't even know this. She told me this like later after we got married. She's like, "I laughed so hard when I got off the phone, fixing to. That sounds so redneck." And I was like, "What do you mean?" And so we got kind of an ongoing joke in our family now.
Right.
Like where she tries to catch me say fixing to.
Right.
And then I'll nod at Mezig. No, I didn't say that.
All right. And it is funny because, I hear you say it plenty of times. But again, I'm in that same redneck boat. I try to appear as intellectual as I can. But sometimes, especially when I'm angry or in any way where I'm speaking quickly, it just comes naturally.
Yeah.
That big old honking Democrat in the White House needs to shut his lips, Mm-hmm. Shut that trap. And it's like, like you just get into it.
Another one that I've made people really laugh on, and this even actually made my pastor's wife laugh, and she's actually from Texas. But we was down there a few years ago doing some relief aid stuff after the hurricane in Houston. Her parents lived down there. And so we were fixing their house because their house had been flooded. Re-sheetrocking.
Right.
And her sister came over, and man, she cooked us the best Cajun food kind of stuff. Oh, it was so good. And they asked me after, because there was lots, so they just kept saying, "Hey, you want some more? You want some more?" Well, me, especially that I was working hard, so I'm a pretty big eater. So I ate quite a bit, and when they asked me like the second or third time, I told them they said, "You want some more?" I said, "No, ma'am. I'm fuller than a tick on a Saint Bernard."
Yep. Yep.
That's always just been a phrase, and they started laughing. So they said, "I've never heard that before." I said, "Well, just think about it. If you're a tick on a Saint Bernard dog, you got lots of food. You're gonna be fat."
Yeah. No kidding. Oh, we need to wrap it up, Horse Spirit. If you would lead us in our exiting prayers, I'd appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day, Father God, and I just thank you for everything that you've allowed me and John and the team at ITDM to do. I pray, Lord, that you would enable us to continue to pump out great things for the public of San Juan County. And Lord, we thank you at this time, because it just keeps bringing it back, Lord, to our families, Lord. I thank you for our families, Father God. I thank you for our moms, our dads, our grandfathers, our grandmothers, our brothers, our sisters, Lord. And Lord, that doesn't necessarily mean blood. Lord, we thank you for the body of Christ, the family of Christ also, Lord. And thank you, Lord, that we still live in a nation to where, yes, they are trying to do this all COVID stuff for the churches and everything, but we can still, even if they don't want us together physically, we can still see each other online and do all this other stuff and still quietly meet together, even in defiance.
Amen.
In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
That's beautiful, as always. Thank you, War Spirit, for joining me this evening. We are going to have ourselves a wonderful Halloween, and we wish the same upon you. Embrace the holiday season, and don't let fear get you all wild up. Big ol' honkin' fear. All right.
Big ol' honkin'.
I'll
I'm
talk
to
to you.
use that now.
Be safe, everybody.